Welcome to Worthington Model Railway. The first thing I have to do is apologize for not posting anything in a while. Unfortunately, I contracted COVID and I was out of action for most of the month of March. I am just about recovered at this point. I would say I'm 90% recovered, so probably more like 95% recovered. So finally getting back to doing some bits and pieces on the railway, and had a few things come in while I was gone, so thought I'd do a couple of videos. So today I'm going to talk about various aspects of making tufts and flower beds and things like that, and I'm going to specifically talk about making them yourself. We will look at some commercial ones, but these are really easy to make, and so I thought what I'd do is just go over and talk about how I make these and what the requirements are to make them, what we need to use. So let's start to look at some stuff.
Tufts. So tufts. I'm in the kitchen today because I'm going to be doing some stuff that's sort of messy and needs water. Got these tufts from Hobby Shop. I mean, they're okay, and they'll probably look alright, but there's something about them that I'm just not like overly thrilled with. And I've only got 3 colors here, and they're pretty expensive. So I ordered a static tuft maker thingy. It's supposed to be here in a couple of days, but before I'm going to be able to use that, I need to get some colored bits for flowers. So I'm going to try today to see if I can work out how to do that. Scatter doesn't really seem to come in the colors that I want, so I grabbed some sawdust from the shop, different types, and when I was at my local hobby shop I picked up some acrylic paints in some different colors in the hope that maybe I can make some colored stuff. So I'm going to have a go at trying to do something with sawdust and paint, and we'll see how it works out. There are 2 types of sawdust. This is just sort of from pine, I suppose, and this is from MDF, so it's a lot finer. It's almost like dust. So I'm going to just add some paint, mix these up a bit, and see what the result is. So all I'm doing is just taking a little toothpick and just mixing this stuff up. It's interesting though, I've noticed that the MDF sawdust requires a lot more paint than the other sawdust. It's like it soaks in a lot faster into the MDF stuff. So I'm going to mix these up different colors, and I'm just going to leave them to dry, and then we'll see what the result of that is. So yeah. Well, here's the stuff mixed up. I mean, it seems to work pretty well. It's kind of dry now, so I'm just going to leave it, and then I'll stick it into these little containers I have. I think I'm just going to mix them up together into the containers rather than separating out the different types of sawdust. I think it's good to have a mix of both, but I think it'll work well. Well, we'll see. Make some tufts, and we'll try adding these to the tufts and see what the result is.
So after I let this dry, you can see it's sort of clumped together. That the paint almost acted like gluing the sawdust together. So I need to get it ground up a little bit. What I discovered was that using one of these grinders, these herb grinders, seems to be the way to do it. The only thing is I need to get the lumps smaller than they are right now. So what I kind of discovered was if I take a pair of snips, and it'll break into smaller chunks like this. Because if the chunks are too big, the grinder just jams up. So take enough chunks in the grinder to all work together. Put a few of these chunks in the grinder, and then screw the bottom on. Chunks in the grinder. Keep running through this grinder, and eventually look in there, you see it starts to grind up, and we end up with a much finer result, which is what we're going to want for later. So I'll keep going and grind the rest of this up. So here you can see this is now nice and finely ground up, and here I did some others. It's the purple, this is the turquoisey blue, and I've got reds and others to do yet, but I think you get the idea. So as I was doing this, I noticed I had all sorts of bits and pieces all over the place, a bit of a mess. So I just gathered up all of these mixed colors and ground them together. So I'll be able to do sort of like a mixed flower type thing with these, I think. Looks pretty good to me. So we'll see how this all works when I start making some tufts and things. So while you can make these things using a static grass applicator, it's much easier to use a flocking box. A flocking box is just another type of static machine. You can buy them on the internet. I think this one was about $30 or $40 and probably came from China. I got it on either eBay or Amazon, I don't remember. But basically it works in the same way, the difference being though the static charge is behind the grass, and you put something on top of the grass to be able to catch it with a static charge. So basically you're going to put glue onto something, put that thing over the top of the box, and then wait for it to catch it on the static charge. So I'm going to power this thing up, and we'll see how it works. So if we look on here, you'll see the static grass on here. I've got some 2mm, some 4mm, and some 6mm. You need to be pretty generous with the static grass. You'll recover it afterwards, but don't skimp or it doesn't work properly. I find the best length is the 4mm. That tends to work the most, so that's what I'll have most of on here. And actually, before I start, I'll probably add a little more static grass to this. As soon as you power this up, you can see the actual static grass starts to move on it. And if I very carefully grab this and put it somewhere near, you'll see the static charge as it starts to come through. So we have to be careful how we do this, because if not, we get a shock like I just did when I was off camera. So let's look at how we're going to do this and how it works. Now, in terms of what you use to be able to make these things, there's all sorts of discussion out there. I've seen some of the wargame people talk about using some specially coated paper. I've seen people use wax paper. I've found the best thing is to use a glossy, like, packaging paper. This is a piece off an old Metcalf. These are done on a faux lid. It's just something you can easily peel the glue off afterwards. And I just find that this works pretty well in using this glossy paper. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take just some craft glue. I mean, fairly simple adhesive. And we're either just going to dot it on here. We can make some longer areas like this and make some short ones. It really doesn't matter. It depends on what you want to do with it, where you want to put it eventually, in terms of what you do with things. Now, the other piece of this equation, as I said earlier, was that I want to add a little more static grass. I am going to turn this off before I do that, so I'm going to pull the power, just because every time you go near it, there's a chance you're going to get a oomph from a charge. So I have some Woodland Scenics 4mm static grass here that I'm going to just mix in on here. Okay, so it gives me some stuff there. I get, as you see, I get some longer stuff in here and some shorter stuff in here. And mix it all together. I might just, I think we'll just leave it at that for the moment. Okay, now what we now need to do is we now need to attach the other end of the charge to our piece of paper, or where we're going to actually get the static to appear. We just plug that on there like that. Okay, so having done that, I now need to be able to hold that piece of paper with something and not my fingers, because I don't want to get hit by 20,000 volts. Surprisingly, these are metal and you'd think that they won't be a good solution, but they seem to work fine. So now I'm going to turn this back on. Now all you're going to do is literally, you're going to put this piece of paper over the top of the static grass, and you'll see the static grass starts to fly everywhere, including covering the back of the paper, but that's not really a problem because we can shake it off. Now if we look and see what's going on here, you'll see it's starting to build up, but you know, it takes quite a few passes of this to get that static grass to build up and attach to the glue. And we can shake it down a bit and see what's going on. See, it's starting to add up. I'm going to run a little more down there on that end. So you can just keep going with this until you get the level of grass that you want and the pieces that you want to put together. There we go. See, we're starting to get quite a nice build up there. At some point, I'm going to try to bang this down and get rid of some of that grass so I can see where I'm at. You can tell by the way it's sparking, that's the reason why my fingers are well away from the static. I think we're looking pretty good there. There's a couple of places or spots there I might want a little bit more. And I think we're just about getting to where we need to be here. And as you can see, I said use plenty of static grass because it does eat it up. Of course, you'll also notice it goes everywhere. We get static grass all over the place. I just get a brush when I'm done and brush that off my workbench. Here we go. I think that looks pretty good. So now we're going to turn the power off, and once we turn the power off, we can actually shake off the excess static grass and see what we're left with. And as you see, here we go, we have some nice tufts. So what are we going to do next? Well, we're going to look at taking those colored components we had earlier that we made, that I went through, I tend to use a little hairspray. This is my favorite thing for adding to this. So we'll just put a little hairspray on here. And then let me start off with my mixed colors here. So remember, I ground this up and put the mixed colors along here. Gives that effect of sort of a flower bed. Get some more of this out. Or we can just leave them plain, or we maybe take a single color. Let me take some yellow here. And kind of looks like some dandelions, or maybe I got a little too much on there, but anyway, we'll shake some off later. Maybe it looks like dandelions or something else. And then we can, and that's basically about it. Not much else to it, and you have tufts that you can peel off. And let's go look at some I did earlier, and we'll look at them on the layout. One of the areas where I wanted to put some of these flower beds is around these workers' cottages that I had. So I'm going to put a couple of the things that we saw earlier around here. So basically all I need to do is put a little bit of white glue where I'm going to lay something. And then just going to pick up this tuft right here and we'll place it on the glue. You know what? I probably need a pair of tweezers. I'll be right back. So I'm going to pick up this tuft with a pair of tweezers and a guard and put it right in there. And then put another one on the corner here. I may have to pick up a couple of those pieces of the scatter that we made earlier. It seemed to have dropped off, but that's fine. So put another little one there, and maybe stick something along here under the window. There we go. Let's zoom in a little bit so we can see that. And of course the glue will dry clear, so we won't see the glue when we're done. Let's put something on the other side. Oops. Yeah. I think you get the idea, and I think that looks pretty good. Okay, that's it for this one. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe. More videos coming soon.